Kendra, thank you for starting that. And I'll go ahead and start introductions. I'm Mark Doss, longtime director here with the NEE project. And I've got a couple of other NEE staff members, actually 3 more NEE staff members on this morning. And Kendra Christians is our marketing director. And Kendra's going to be driving the bus while I talk and handling the slides. And we've also got Tom Hairston, the managing director for NEE. Tom takes care of just the big umbrella over NEE of all the different teams and activities that we have as part of NEE. And also on board this morning, we've got Kathy Losing. Many of you that call into the help desk and have questions, technical questions, and Kathy's so good at handling those, and she's joining us this morning. We're also really glad to have Roger Barnes, coordinator of CTE for the State Department, with us. And we've been working with Roger a lot on this topic the last several months. And we hope to get Teresa Snump on later this morning. Teresa's had a little family obligation to take care of first thing this morning, but we're hoping that she can join us a little bit further. And oh, Teresa is in. Oh, good. Thanks. And Teresa's on board. Teresa, again, the supervisor of the Family Consumer Science and Health Services division as part of CTE with the State Department. And I'm so glad that both of them could join us this morning. We're going to give you sort of an overview of NEE's vision for assisting particularly rural districts with the teacher shortage issue. And Kendra, you can go on to that first slide. So we're going to give you a little bit of kind of the backstory where we've been working behind the scenes the last year to sort of get to this point of today's session and another session coming up in early June. We're going to give you an overview of at least some services that we would provide around this pipeline project. And we're also, that will involve or could involve the CTE centers. And that's really the main reason we've got Roger and Teresa on board, is because there is already under Teresa's umbrella a number of school districts that have a grow your own operation already in place and running at this time, and how we're going to try to incorporate all of these activities and help provide some support and services to any district that would like that. And then we're also going to wrap up with some next steps, sort of a timeline. If you want to become involved, or your CTE center would like to become involved, sort of what some next steps on through the next 12 months, 15 months would look like. So that's sort of our rundown today. I think we go ahead, Kendra. I think we all kind of realize this issue, starting back in about 2012, 13, we started to see a pretty significant slide in the enrollment in the higher ed teacher education prep programs. And that slide went right on down through 2015, 16. And now I guess the good news is it has plateaued. But we are at a significantly reduced number of enrollees. So the pipeline took about a 40% cut from a period of about 10 years ago to where we are today. And just over this last year, running some more numbers and talking to the fine folks at PSRS, we are running at about a negative 1,000 teacher per year rate right now. And of course, we've got 86,000 teachers total in this public system in the state, but we can't really go at this negative. Any of us that have run a budget, you can't negative spend for very long. And we are in the midst of a real negative rate with our enrollment and graduates of the education programs compared to what we're retiring out the other end into PSRS. So it's probably time. And again, I'm so glad to see the state legislature step up and put some funding behind that. And that really is the reason we're coming to you today. This funding opportunity has really sped up our planning and our project such that we felt that we needed to get something out to as many of you as possible and start sharing some information, which we had been doing with the State Department so far at this point. All right, Kendra, let's go on to the next. So about a year ago, we started in visiting with others around Missouri and even outside Missouri. And one of obviously the first things we noticed and took note of was the career pathways for the teaching profession introductory course that was already in place through the FACS department there at the State Department of Education. And Teresa and her group have done a wonderful job of putting that together, and they've got a number of high schools around the state. And I know we checked with Teresa about 3 weeks ago on the enrollment numbers, and should have about 1,500 to 1,600 students enrolled in that statewide next year. Now that's, again, those are the ones that are running under that particular program. There are some others that are out there that aren't aligned with that FACS offering, but we do have at least a good effort going forward at this point right now, and that seems to be working quite well. Again, it's a single block or a single hour, 1 credit type offering at this point, which again, we'll talk a little bit more about some options later as we get into this, but we certainly wanted to recognize Teresa and her team's work in that area and where they're at currently, which is a nice number. Now, if you look down the roster of the schools involved, most of them are larger, suburban, urban, or at least regional center size high schools, and which is good. That's a nice population to start with and get things underway. The direction that NEE is wanting to help move towards is how do we work with the very small high schools? And again, if any of you've been in NEE very long, you kind of understand we have a lot of small school districts in the NEE network. Probably 200 of our nearly 300 districts would be in that rural small school category if you were looking at categorizing them as far as size and makeup. So we really, a year ago, when COVID hit, and if any of you know me very well, I'm not one to kind of sit around and wait on things. And when we hit COVID this time, in March of last year, I started getting kind of itchy about, well, what am I going to do with my spare time now? And so I started really reaching out on this topic to find what's going on and what are some strategies and options that school could employ to help recruit and retain new teachers, as well as develop a grow your own type program. So been working on this about a year and really focusing in on how are we going to get the small schools involved. And with that, we talked with Gary Funk. Gary, believe it or not, is a native of Bolivar. He worked here in the Springfield area, and I actually knew Gary from my early days at the community college here in Springfield when I was there back in the 90s. And Gary's actually now living in Wisconsin, but he's been heading up this Rural Schools Collaborative for several years. And he works with, and I'll use the term clusters. He works with clusters of school districts and typically an institution of higher ed around the country. And he's got several pockets of these grow your own initiatives that he has helped. And Gary was very instrumental in kind of helping us with some very fundamental basics of what we needed to know and to look at in starting to look at something that would be more statewide and how to involve the very small rural districts. And in particular, he gave us 2 contacts, one at Lisbon, North Dakota, and that was a school superintendent there who about 12 years ago sort of started from the school district's level, a grow your own program. And then the second place that, and I'll come back to talk more about Lisbon, but the second location was the University of West Alabama. And that college and their dean really saw the pipeline shrinking situation, again, 8 or 10 years ago, and started to try to investigate strategies of how to increase enrollment into her college of education. And the group that she happened to partner with was the local career center. And it was, again, I think had 4 sending school districts, high schools, but she partnered with them. So we're going to spend a lot of time talking about that West Alabama model. So Kendra, go ahead and so at Lisbon, we really spent some time digging down into the details from the district's point of view with Dr. Johnson up there of what did you do? How did you build this? How did you get kids involved? And there were a couple of things that he felt were instrumental. One was getting these offerings put in a dual credit arrangement with either the local community college or the 4-year school. Now, his partner to begin with didn't want to play. The local state university just sort of shrugged him off and told him, we don't need you, go on down the road. And the problem is they probably didn't need him, but he needed their help. He's sitting out there at that small rural school, and he needs to get some kids from his rural area in the education program, because again, we all know most teachers work and teach within 30 miles of where they graduated from high school. And Stephen was very upfront. It's the only way he's going to build a pipeline is to get kids from his area. If not, there's something going to come out there for a year or two, then they're going to go back to the bigger cities. So Stephen jumped on that, and he stayed after the university. And actually, I got a new dean, and then he was able to get something rolling. And now here, 10 or 12 years later, it's been very successful. I asked Stephen, so what percentage of kids are you getting back to your community? He said, well, about 70% of them return. So I thought that was a very good example of what could happen to get kids to return back to their rural communities and stay in the education field there. He also partnered with the local community foundation to help with the scholarships and try to help the kids that were maybe through needs that were needing assistance. And so he felt that was another key that his local community and their community foundations and school district foundation had been very supportive of this effort to try to help promote these educators on through into their college experience. One thing, other thing which I didn't on the bullet here, one thing that also Stephen said is trying to keep those kids when they leave to go to college, keep in contact with them. So as NEE looks at this vision, and we think that's something that we need to put in place and we need to help you with, is staying in contact with those kids after they leave for their freshman, sophomore, even junior year in college. Again, trying to recruit them back for their student teaching experience back inside one of these home districts is something that Stephen said is critical, is being in touch with them. Even if it's something when they come back for the holiday or they come back for summer, that you're making some sort of effort to stay in contact with them, he said was very important. All right, here we're looking at the West Alabama. We visited quite a bit with Dr. Miller, the dean down there, and she's been there a number of years. And they established this teacher corps, and in particular, they worked with the Pickens County College and Career Center there in her. I don't think it's in the same town, but it's in their same area. And the tech center director Sean was very helpful in visiting with us, because I definitely wanted to see the perspective of what this program looked like at his center. And I know we have I know Columbia's got a program in place at their tech center. And so I know we have some career centers in Missouri that have established a dual credit teacher cadet or teacher prep program within their tech center. And that's what West Alabama worked with Pickens County on setting up. Now, one thing that I think is very helpful is that the state of Alabama, kind of like Missouri has A+ schools, the state of Alabama put in a $10,000 tuition scholarship for $2,500 a year for all 4 years of college for education majors. And that's a big help, especially as we all know that senior year when we expect a student to come to our building and work basically for free for an entire semester in their student teaching experience. Again, no other industry, no other business sector does that. Your engineering and business internships are always paid, and yet ours is not. So I think Alabama has taken a step towards solving that, or at least helping solve that, by offering that tuition scholarship for education majors. Now, some of this funding that's coming out from the state this year, there's $10,000 for grow your own programs, and then there's that other larger chunk of $28,000, which is for recruiting and retention. I'm interested to see when more gets put into writing, what's allowable on that $28,000 piece. Is a stipend for student teaching allowable? And what would that stipend size be? Enough to, again, if you're a rural school, can you help recruit kids back from your area if you're able to help them with a stipend for the student teaching experience? I don't know if that's allowable, but that would be a great question to ask when these regs are being prepared, so that we would know that. The West Alabama model also has a teacher cadet curriculum. Again, just like Teresa's 1-year option, they have a 2-year option, and it includes a first year, which is mostly classroom based, but with some field experience activities in it. The second year is primarily field based. The kids do come back to the center periodically for check-ins with the teacher, but most of their time is in their sending school district, where they are on a long-term internship at the school. So again, I think those are options that again, NEE is willing to work with every district to that would want to work within this rural pipeline to build a model that fits for your CTE center and your sending schools. We're going to say there's one size fits all here. I think if what Teresa has and the facts offering is what fits best in your sending schools, they need to go that direction. However, if you can put a program together at your center and for these small rural schools, then that's probably a great opportunity for those schools to send students to your center for that teacher cadet program. Now,
Mark,
yes.
Something that you that you probably don't realize is that our career pathways for the teaching profession, it is a program of study which would be generally 2 credits. And so it works more like this one, where there is the first course is basically more of a classroom, it's a study situation. But then there is the practicum course, and that is when the students go out into, either they're sending schools, or it can be the school that's associated if it's at a career center. So not every school, is able to have the 2 credits, especially if you're, we're talking about maybe sometimes in high school situations, but there are several schools that it is worth 2 credits, and that can be in a block schedule, which might be all during 1 year, or it could be a 2-year situation. So I wanted to let you know that.
Thank you. I thought it was just 1 year, and I
yes, no. Since it's a program of study, all those have to be, worth 2 years. It's supposed to be worth 2 credits, and then several of those students are able to get dual credit if their teachers qualify. I'd say it's most likely they get about 6 hours dual credit right now. Once again, it's if their teacher qualifies to be a dual credit teacher, through college or university. Some teachers don't qualify for that. So we do have some students that right now don't have those opportunities.
Thank you. The other added feature I wanted to talk about with the West Alabama is the academic dual credit offerings that are put into this program. And that's really helped recruit students into that program because they get a technical block, which would be, again, be the teacher prep, teacher cadet course. And then they also take the academic, it could be either Comp 1, college algebra, public speaking, American history. I'm just going over the basic gen ed classes that are offered during the first year of college. And most of the students that come out of the Pickens County, West Alabama program at the end of high school have around 32 college credits. About 9 of those are technical teacher prep course or credits, and then the rest are their academic gen eds. And that, again, as you would expect, that trims a full year off of their 4-year university experience, so they can graduate in 3 years. And West Alabama has been running this long enough. They are seeing kids, finish the program in 3 years and are coming back actually as their 4th year as certified full-time teachers. They're seeing that this pipeline, this circuit is working well in a 3-year college experience. So that would be another incentive that we would hope could be built in at the local level, would be these dual credit offerings. Now, several tech centers, and I'm looking at the list of centers that are on this registration today, and I know many of you either have a community college very close, or you have a satellite campus of those colleges in your location or very close to you. So I think there's a lot of opportunities for many CTE centers to incorporate a dual credit offering in this area and really build this out as a total package for that large block of credit by the time the students graduate. And again, with that package put together, Pickens County said it's not hard to get kids to come. Recruiting is not a problem. So they're seeing each cohort of juniors coming in, having 20, 25 students in those cohorts. So they're in turn in their senior year graduating, 15 to 18 kids. They always lose a few, but they're still graduating a good sized block of students on handing them on back to West Alabama University. All right, Kendra, I think we've covered that one. So we think and would pursue in as many locations as NEE can help support this University of West Alabama, Pickens County model. There are other options. If your center cannot do this, we've talked to a few this past winter, and a few of them have got space issues. They don't have a room to put the program in. We understand that. It's a situation where if you have space, then you can add a program. If you don't, then it's going to have to wait until a construction project or some other resource in the district is released or transitioned. That space would be available. But we would certainly encourage, and where possible, to try to implement that type of model. But we want to build in the maximum amount of flexibility that the local districts and the CTE hosted district can build what's the best fit for their situation. That we're not trying to force something on you to say, oh, this is the only way this can happen. We want to work with you to build what works for you. Obviously, working closely with Teresa and Roger, that's been our focus from day one. I as a former CTE director and vocational administrator, when I saw that West Alabama model, the lights went off. It's like, that's what will work in Missouri. We can do this in Missouri and help cover these small, tiny high schools and give their students a chance to get a 4-year degree in education. And again, come back to those rural areas. Again, so many of these kids, as the folks up in North Dakota to us, the family farms, these kids, they have local ties and they don't want to leave those areas, but yet we need educators. And so if we can work to put those two together and allow those kids to, to go away for a while to college, but then come back to that local area and have a decent paying position there in the local district, that would be a win-win. Again, with the flexibilities and trying to help you all. NEE's always been good about trying to not force things on you, but to try to, work with you and listen to you and try to offer the services that will support you. And that's what we're trying to do in the next year, is to help you in any way we can to get these type programs. And it maybe take a couple of years, but sometime in the near future to help you get these types of programs off the ground and up and running. It just seemed like with this financial allocation coming out from the state, now is the time to start talking to you about this and get that done. I'll come back a little bit more and talk about the June 9th webinar in a minute, but that's the big reason we wanted to get to you early before too many plans are in place. All right, Kendra. So as far as the actual Rural Educator Pipeline Project, this graphic is about 9 months old. So this is really how we envisioned NEE's role in this, was to work with the districts and the CTEs to help create and engineer these programs, design these programs. And we could also work with the community foundations in your area. There's a big one down here in Southwest Missouri. There's another one up in Northwest Missouri that I know of that are very helpful in scholarship opportunities. Of course, Mayor has a scholarship opportunity, but we really want to try to see if we can ramp that up, get more funding for educators. Again, as I've said, this money that's coming out of the state appropriation, I want to read the regs. I want to find out what can that be used for, because I think that, kind of like the Alabama $10,000 scholarship, if we can tap into some of that money at the local level, that's going to have a real impact. Another key player over there on the right-hand side in those blue pentagons, the higher ed institutions. Now, NEE's home base is EMU, but by no means is EMU running this. We really think the key institutions in your place are going to be your local community colleges. They're the ones with the cheapest tuition. They're the ones that are going to be able to do the most with that least amount of money as far as dual credit. Many of you have community college either near you or a satellite near you. They're going to be probably the ones that are going to provide that dual credit academic coursework, or at least be in working in conjunction with your academic staff at your district to do that. So those institutions are key in making this work. We've visited with some of them that they understand where we're at. They understand the predicament we are in K-12. Many of their education staff members, education faculty, are, again, our former K-12 teachers and administrators. So they're very well versed in the situation in the dire straits we're in. And they're even starting to shift their stance on dual credit. A few years ago, it was sort of taboo. Oh, we'll never do that. That has shifted. And that is continuing to shift even as we work. They are going to be willing to come to the table, and because they are also seeing kind of like the University of West Alabama, they're starting to see that pipeline shrink, and their college of education or education department numbers are shrinking, and they're looking at how can we bolster that. And if they work with you, more than likely they're going to get some of those kids to attend their institution. Now down there in the gold box, we've got some agencies and third-party organizations that we've involved. Obviously, our State Department, and Teresa and Roger both joining us today and being so involved with this process. Again, my background with CTE, I think this is the strongest direction we can go. I think this is where we're going to have the best impact. mayor, with Kevin and Ray Patrick and his team, and they're always willing to step up and do whatever they can to help this be successful. It's a little self-serving, just like it is in a lot of our parts, but they all see the need for a larger presence for rural educators, or a larger need for rural educators, and their association's willing to help. MSTA, like NEE, most of their members are rural schools. They have a vested interest in the rural community being strong and the rural school being strong. And they are willing to help us. They're willing to, they've got scholarship opportunities and other opportunities for participation that I don't think we need to turn our back on. We need to involve them in this process. So that's sort of, again, from about 9 months ago. And I still think primarily this model is kind of, as far as the main pipeline project, where we think we need to spend a lot of our emphasis and our focus is on this area. Again, having some flexibility, build what works in your place, but kind of stay within this framework of here's the players we need to have around the table. All right, now here's another graphic, and if you want us to send you this PowerPoint or send you these two slides, we'll be glad to. But here's more of a bullet point of some of the roles that each of these around that last graphic. We've just taken those and put some bullets there, some actual definitions of the roles that each group would have. Now, again, the state funding was not on this 9 months ago. So there's over there somewhere I need to add, whether, I guess it would be through DESE. Now we do have a channel of funding coming through that this work would be right in the center of. So that's a huge help. And that may be big enough for you all. I'm going to give you, Kendra's giving you some time to look through those. Thank you, Kendra. And this may be a chance for us to stop at this point and just take, we've got some more slides, but I want to just maybe stop at this point and say, is, any questions, feedback?
Mark, would you happen to have a copy, or can you get a copy of the curriculum from the West Alabama program?
I've got quite a bit of material already gathered, Roger. Their program of study, what that looks like, all of their flyers. I've got their curriculum outlines for both of their, in particular, that first year. That's really what I was wanting to see. And Roger, I prepared a spreadsheet. It was around Christmas. I took the West Alabama curriculum and the community college here in Springfield, OTC. I took their college courses and I did a crosswalk, just kind of see what they teach. And then Teresa sent me her outlines and I added another column for their first year course. So we've got a decent amount of alignment work done on what's being taught. For the most part, we're in pretty good shape. I mean, Teresa's hitting a lot of the right things that OTC looks for. And obviously the West Alabama. Now the West Alabama threw in a couple of units that aren't in Teresa's work and aren't in the OTC work. So I kind of think there's maybe some things that when we say, here's what we feel you need to offer, we might lay those to the side. However, I still want to emphasize we've really got to spend some time looking at that community college in your area. What are in their first 3 to 4 courses, maybe just the first 2 courses, and spend some time really looking across and making sure that what we build for your program is covering those objectives in those first handful of courses at that community college. Most of the community colleges are fairly consistent. The 4-year schools have a slightly different alignment, slightly different course organization. But I think, again, what we're trying to do is help you align with where are your kids going? Who is issuing that dual credit, and trying to be sure there's a really strong alignment there. But we do have quite a bit of information already gathered from West Alabama and looking at how they approach. But again, they're aligned to the University of West Alabama, and that's in their coursework. So I think it's very helpful to see what they've got. But I also think it's important for us to look back at our higher ed institutions and being sure that that's done. Now, what I'm hoping is that if 2 or 3 of you feed in, and I'll pick on Moberly area community college, if 2 or 3 centers feed into Moberly, I think we put everybody in the room at once and we work on that alignment once, and that those centers teach that form or that version of the curriculum, because that's what Moberly wants. And the same thing could be said for Three Rivers Community College down in South Central, if that's the ones feeding in, or OTC here in the Springfield area. I think we need to take time to tweak our base curriculum to what they're gonna use. I think it's Teresa's curriculum, again, is a good core. It's a good foundation. And then you tweak off of that to meet the needs for that dual credit arrangement with your local area. That would be my approach, Roger, of helping the districts. And the good thing is, we're sitting here 17, well, not that far, 15 months out from implementing something. So we've got a lot of time to gather and compare, adjust curriculum as needed. It's not going to be, at this point, it's not a rush. And that could be good work for the fall, which we'll get into a little bit in a while. Any other questions? All right, Kendra, you want to move on to the next slide? Okay. We think, again, and that's the reason my lights went off when I saw what West Alabama was doing. I think our CTE network of centers is in a very critical, unique position to address and help these very small rural schools. And I'm not gonna pick on any set of small schools, but I know from working with NEE, we've got some that are so small. I don't care, literally how much money the State Department gives them, it's not enough. They're going to have to lean on and leverage with other school districts around them to have a high quality program. And I think we at the CTE centers are positioned to help them do that. Now, space, there are issues, I understand. There are things that are somewhat out of our control, but I think, again, we've got 15 months to start to figure out. And if we need, obviously, get the host district superintendent, assistant soup, whoever those folks are, get them involved in this conversation to help solve some of our barriers to see how we can get this put in place. So I think that we are in a key position to do that. Again, as we've talked before, we're willing to help you, create these programs, design them to fit the needs of your sending schools and your host district. And whatever that may be. In the same way at the community college, who do we need to play with? Who needs to be at the table as far as the higher ed institution or institutions to make this happen? And again, we'll be working with, again, to providing you, through DESE and ourselves, the support you do. Teresa they do a summer, and Teresa, I think you've got that either coming up or just had your training for your new programs for next year. And
we just had a set of training in May for people who maybe just got hired, and knowing, that there are so many openings and things like that. We do have another training set for August because we know people are still hiring. So yes, we try to have it twice for sure a year. And we're excited. We're excited if there needs to be some changes in some of our curriculum to help meet some of these needs. We're very excited to be part of this program.
Thank you, Teresa. again, and that's the kind of thing with having Teresa's team on board, is to provide that training and how NEE can help support them. I know with, and most of you are in a NEE district, and you kind of know, you've been inside of Ed Hub, and you've kind of kicked the tires in there. That thing is filled with a plethora of beginning teacher resources. And we've got Kathy on board here this morning, and Kathy, of course, is the go-to person with Ed Hub, and we're anxious. We are this year. We have, at least as far as sort of a curriculum pilot, we're talking with the Tech Center at Lebanon about going ahead and integrating the NEE resources, the Ed Hub resources, into the curriculum offered there, so we can start to see where within those units where our resources could be inserted. And again, all those are online, so you get a lot of flexibility with being able to remotely support students out in the field. Even if it's in a second year field study internship, we can still provide them resources out there in the field. So we're going to be working with them to do some curriculum integration. Okay, Kendra. So here's a timeline of kind of how we would estimate things to happen over the next 15 months. In early June, here on June 9th, we are going to host another webinar like this, or Zoom session, to give information to primarily rural NEE superintendents. We've got about 200 of these districts in the network. And so that's going to be our primary audience, is to give them information about this thing that could happen in their area. Now, why are we meeting here on the 28th of May? Because I want you to be aware of what I'm going to say to the superintendents on June 9th. Because I might think that either on the afternoon of June 9th or the morning of June 10th, you might get some phone calls from some of your sending school superintendents saying, hey, are you going to play ball there? Because I'm excited about this, because I need some teachers. And I wanted you to be prepared to say, we are considering it. We are talking about it. We are, looking at our options. And we'll get, again, you don't have to have an answer, but just say we are aware. And then as we go on through this timeline, if you and your host district superintendent want to move forward, or at least want to talk, then again, these dates in August, as far as coming back, and you can contact one at a time. If you want us to join on a Zoom session sometime in late July or August with your superintendent, we'd love to. And visit about this. Again, we already have a relationship with many of your superintendents. So doing that is a big plus. And I appreciate Tom putting that link to that June 9th session. I'd love for you to attend that also, because I'm really anxious to hear what those superintendents, what are their questions? What are their hot buttons as far as getting something like this put together? Because again, as I mentioned earlier, I think the ball is still in your court. We can help you design what works for you in your center. 1 year, 2 years, is we can involve the right players, but we want to give you the chance to at least be knowledgeable on this June 9th event, so that you're prepared to at least pick up the phone and be able to address them and say, we are considering this. And buy yourself some time, and you and your superintendent. And again, please invite your superintendent to that June 9th session. Send them that link. I'd love to have them involved, because they are, again, as I know, I worked under, superintendents at my CTE center. Ultimately, they're the decision maker. So we'd love to have them involved, and certainly on through the summer if they want to talk, we're willing to. So on into the fall, if you decide that you would like to pursue this, or at least take the beginning steps, you can sort of see some of the things that we're talking about doing during the fall and winter. And that would help you prepare for this and get the coursework ready. If you have an available teacher, or would be hiring someone, or shifting responsibilities, can help you talk through those. same time, talking about the dual credit opportunities, then we can get those community colleges involved and or four-year school involved and start to work through those situations, and all focused on a August of 22 launch with your new grow your own program or teacher cadet program. Any questions on the timeline and sort of how we have it envisioned from our point of view? Okay, Kendra, I think the next one's some questions. Yeah, thought that's where we were at. So, well, I'll open the floor.
Mark, I'll jump in there and ask a question.
Sure.
I do know we've been real fortunate here in Columbia with our teacher, being FACS certified. I'm just wondering, I know a lot of the schools across the state, one of the things that they have had issues with is just teacher certification. I'm a strong proponent of ensuring this sticks with CTE. I mean, it is, definitely connected to career education. I'm wondering if has been given any thought. Maybe there's been some adjustments to certification, but I'd love to know if, I'm thinking about this from like a trade and industrial, like I bring in a welding teacher, there's certain things they need to learn. And so I do believe an academic teacher that's been teaching 10 years in the classroom could be a quality teacher, but I still think they need to learn some things about what it's like to be a CTE teacher. And so kind of like we do with our high school principals that jump over to a career center, area career center, you know what, darn it, they need to learn our world and how we tick and what makes us unique. So many superintendents have been really upset about having to take some courses in CTE finance and CTE curriculum. But you know what, if they're going to invest time and be a part of our organization or our world of education, then they need to, to learn those ropes. So I'd love to see us, if DESE hasn't already, explore an option, a special certification process for, an existing certified teacher to get, a couple of courses, get temporary career ed certified, and then take some courses to learn the CTE methodology centered around CTSOs and finance and some of those other things that they would need to know to thrive as a career and technical education teacher that they maybe not gotten in another teacher prep program.
And Brandon, I would fully agree, and that would be my encouragement also. I taught those certification courses down at Missouri State for several years, and I know it would do all of them some good. And I would encourage it. I'm sure Roger and Teresa would back us up on that. That would be our approach. Would be, again, get whatever we can. If they're not certified, let's do what we can to get them a temporary, and then start with a plan in place to move them through like we do with that welding teacher or auto mechanics teacher, automotive teacher you hire. What do we got to do to get them fully certified? And Teresa, I know there's a praxis option that's another one. That's another method to lay on the table. But I think you're right, to make this a larger scale success, having some methods to have that certification path for them, and not make it too big a burden, but yet they need to learn the ropes. And you're right. But I think those are things that we can work with, particularly Roger and Teresa, on mapping that out, and then bring in the other players from the certification department, the certification office at the department, to see what we can do. And there may be already some ways we can do that in place. And Teresa, do you and Roger want to comment on that? Because I know that this is a kind of a nagging problem. I mean, Roger's been great to give us that opt-out, that other course code where you don't have to be certified. But again, Brandon, I agree. If we can get them certified, that's best.
I don't know that I fully understood the question, but if you have a certified teacher already from an academic core, they can still go through the certification process to become say a business teacher or whatever, whether it's using a temporary authorization certificate or some other method, I mean, they can still get there. And the nice part about it is they've already had all the gen ed things, those 6 courses that are typically required, 6 or 7 courses that are typically required of skilled technical trade teachers that they have to take in order to get their certification, because they come out of business or business and industry, not a teacher prep program. It's, I don't think it's as hard for a currently certified teacher to become a career ed teacher. But I would say from, my years past and courses that I took, now I came up through the career ed area. I was an ag teacher first and then became a principal and career ed director. And so I knew all about career ed, but just as our skilled technical trades people going into to become a teacher have to take these career or these academic courses, these 6 or 7 academic courses, maybe it ought to be flipped the other way also, that anyone getting certified to teach language arts, mathematics, elementary ed, they should have in their plan of study at the university some career education coursework also, so that they see the full picture. And certainly on a principal side and superintendent side, that that would need to happen also.
I'm sorry, Libby Williams from Cape Girardeau. My understanding on, I'd love to learn that I was incorrect on this, but we've looked at going to the teacher pathway program here at our center for a long time. I have an excellent teacher that I would love to teach it. She currently does a child development, careers in child development coursework or child care CDA program, and would be an excellent person to do this. But my understanding is the only method in which we could keep it as a CTE course and not use that 099 or whatever the other course code is that she has to get FACS certified, which would mean she has to take the FACS mega exam or whatever that exam is. And not that she's not willing to do that, but it just seems kind of repetitive. She's already CTE certified. She's already here. She's already got the skill set. I mean, she's probably willing to do what I need her to do. And we're definitely looking and want to be included in these conversations going forward. But I agree with Brandon, the certification issue is something that is kind of a sticking point for a lot of career centers.
We have probably, I would say with the teacher shortage, we have probably at least 25 to 30 teachers across the state of Missouri take that MOCA, every year. It is pretty common. It's just like if someone were an English teacher and they were going to teach math and they would take the praxis, to do that sort of thing. I mean, it is fairly common. It's pretty inexpensive to take. And like I said, I'm with a lot of teachers all the time. It doesn't take, it's not very lengthy, and it's fairly inexpensive to get that certification.
And I believe that if it's a course you're requiring the teacher to teach and they don't have that certification as far as the cost, you could end up paying for that out of your Title II funds, the cost of their MOCA test.
And Roger, that new state funding, again, if it's recruiting and retention or grow your own, I think those funds I can't see how that wouldn't be allowable if we're trying to move one of our key staff members that's the right fit. And that's one of the things that that West Alabama, the tech center director, he brought that teacher from, was not near him. He brought her in from across the state because she had the right background. They got her temporary for 2 years, and then she eventually worked through and was fully certified. So I think, again, as most of you and Libby, as you mentioned, you've got the right person. I think that's critical, is the right person. And after seeing and talking with this instructor, this teacher at Pickens County, I agree with Sean. Yeah, you got the right one. You got the spark plug, and she can light a fire with those kids. And I think that's the type person that we want. Again, I think Roger and Teresa are both trying to tell us that we will work through the process. We will find the best path for that person to be certified. It may take us a couple of years to do it, but we'll find the path. And I'm hoping that's what, and Brandon, that's what you're saying is, how flexible is that certification office? How flexible is DESE going to be to help us? And I think they are. We all are in this game to solve the problem. And how can we work together to do that? And again, I think all the way to the very top at DESE, the State Board of Education and the commissioner, they know that our backs are up against the wall. They sit there and look at those reports every August and know that we're negative spending on the number of teachers, and something has to shift. And so something like this could help us do that. Any other comments, questions? Thanks, and good conversation on the certification, because that's a barrier. And I could also mention, the dual credit. Again, I think the colleges are being more flexible. They're understanding they have to be more flexible, and that has shifted within just the recent past. And I think we're going to continue to see that move to work with us and not exclude our kids and our teachers. And Philip, I see you down there from Crowder. So I mean, you're amongst them down there, young man. I can sure that you can appreciate and understand very, very easily kind of some of these issues with the dual credit arrangement. It's tough.
Yeah, for sure. I apologize for jumping on late. I hope you got a recording or something. I can catch the first half of it.
We did, Philip. We'll be glad to share that link with you.
But definitely something that we are actively working on here in our little Southwest Missouri coalition of technical centers as well. So would love to pitch in and help. Great,
thank you. And Philip, if I can, I'm down here. I'm in Ozark. So if I can come over one day, if you guys, between Monette and Franklin and everybody down there, if you guys have a meeting, I'd love to come in and visit with you. That'd be fine.
Well, I might give you a call. We've got a meeting coming up June 9th, actually.
I'm busy that day.
So I might try to get them to listen in at least, and then maybe we can set up something for afterwards, because this is exactly what we're working on. And I think it's important also to look at what some of the schools are considering with their CAPS programs as well. I know Neosho we're working with them on their CAPS program and their teacher education pathway, and making sure that we've got all those partners involved is important.
Yeah. And all NEE's trying to do is sweeten the pot. We're just trying to help where we can. We think we've got some resources that can help, and we can blanket some areas maybe where there's not a strong coalition. Sounds like you guys are as a group, you've got a coalition built, and how can we assist you in that? But in other areas where there isn't that level of support, how can we step in and be that kind of that safety net to be sure that if there is a district out there that wants to get something started, that they're able to do it. All right, you have our contact information there, and if you have any follow-up questions after we get done, but we would I've kind of taken notes who's here, and Philip, be in touch with us, and we'll get that as soon as this thing takes a few hours to get this recording back to the right format, but we can get that link and get it posted for you to watch if you'd like. If there's others in your realm of control, your superintendent or others that you would want to share this with, feel free to, we'll get that link ready to share that with them, and encourage anybody to take part in that June 9th session. Again, either other colleagues, that'd be great. We'd love to have them involved.
Will do. Thank you, Mark.
You bet. Thank you all for attending. We'll be in touch, and we appreciate your attendance this morning.